Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Land Development Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Glick. And if this is your first time joining us, our show is dedicated to having on individuals related to the industry, hearing about their origin story, and then talking about some of the projects and deals that they've been a part of over the past. And today I'm excited to be joined by Ray Mazzie. Ray is the co founder and managing partner at Southern Waters Capital. Ray, thanks for joining me.
Of course, happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, and usually I was thinking coming into this conversation, usually where I start is going into like how you got into the industry and everything, and I think I want to switch it up just a little bit and maybe start first and foremost with your company. And so, for those who aren't familiar with Southern Waters Capital, can you walk through and describe what it is that your company does?
Yeah, so in the most simple sense, we're ground up developers of rental housing who focus on build to rent and multifamily. So another way we can say it and how we like to, whenever we're talking to people who are really in the industry with us, we call ourselves land developers with a focus on rental housing because we'll do everything from manufactured housing to high rises. It really just what is the market cycle we're in, where can we get a good entry point on the dirt, and a lot of other factors. But at the end of the day, we're solving for a spread, right? A spread on our yield on cost and our exit cap rate, and it's highly dependent upon where the capital comes from, what market you're in, and both geographically and
Yeah.
economic markets.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, I'm curious, where are you actually located?
I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Okay, is that where you primarily the projects and things that you're working on, are they primarily in that, or no, not region specifics, you're kind of all over the place?
Absolutely not. So down here
Okay.
we will find, and fair question, obviously. It's flashy, it's beautiful down here, it's amazing. I look forward to buying dirt down here at some point, but currently it's a little overpriced. And I always like to make the joke, I could do 10, 15 amazing deals in a suburban market and do one bad deal in a major metro and lose
Yeah.
all the cash I made. So um, I understand. Um, I understand where I sit on the totem pole, if you will, when it comes to ability to deploy capital, and we're certainly doing a great job growing and everything like that. But walking into sites that are 50 to $100 million isn't something that I find to be a good risk reward in today's market. But I am super excited that I'm starting to see opportunities in metro areas that would have been extremely enticing a few years ago, and now are just something that's kind of on my radar. So short answer is no, the dirt's too expensive down here, but we are active in 5 states, mostly the suburban areas around the major metros of Tennessee, the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida. So those are our
Okay.
top five and our favorite. We're happy to go wherever there's a great market, but at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we can operate in the market both from a personality standpoint and a market knowledge standpoint, so we can execute on the business plan.
Okay. No, it makes complete sense. And so when you got into this business to start with, was it something where you always had your eyes on real estate, growing up and everything like that? Or at what point did you realize that real estate was something you wanted to get into?
No, when I was growing up, I thought I'd be in the Navy. Um,
Ah,
yeah, that would have been a different life. And God bless all of our veterans. So basically, what happened to me was went to school just like anybody else, was playing sports, all that kind of stuff. I have a pretty different past, so really sports is what got me through my first year of college. Brought me up to CW Post on Long Island, back where my roots are from. But then I headed down to Florida State, where I had an amazing time. Obviously, school at Florida State is extremely fun. You learn a lot, both about yourself and about people in general. And of course, if you stick to the books, you'll learn a little bit that matters in a technical skill sense as well. But long story short, I went to law school and business school, and really on the first day of law school, I was like, wow, these people are all very excited, very intelligent, very competitive, and something that I'm just not that interested in. So um, I should say that I had deep interest in certain subjects, right? But I didn't have an overarching love of the law. So I knew it kind of wasn't for me the first day, just because you know, I always say if you want to make a good career in something, you've got to be able to be, deeply curious about it. You've got to be extremely competitive in it. top 10%. And then you got to be able to make enough money that makes you smile when you wake up in the morning. So knowing those three things back then, I was like, lawyer's probably not the place for me. But I did find that I was really good at code law, which is like tax code, real estate code, or more like zoning code, things like that, land use code. So I took those skills, and then when I went to business school, I just really enjoyed those people so much. Enjoyed the idea of solving problems, which is kind of the same thing you do as an attorney, which is fun, solving problems, but it's usually at the direction of someone else. So this is something. Real estate was something that I quickly saw that I could be competitive in. I was deeply curious about it, and I knew I could make enough money to make myself smile when I did it. So I worked for the governor of the state of Florida for a little bit. Worked as an attorney for about a little bit over a year, and then was brought down by a couple friends of mine who raised some substantial amount of capital to have a startup down here in South Florida. That's what brought me down to South Florida. And then when I got down here, I made good friends with my now business partner, who was an original investor in that company. So after my equity vested and I couldn't earn any more of the company, there was really no reason for me to stay. Of course, loved the people there. Didn't still very close with all of them. Still in contact with the board and everything like that. But it was time for me to do my own thing. So Dean Myro graciously invested with me and made a big bet on me. And now we've been in business now for 4 years. It's kind of wild.
That's awesome. Well, let's
Hmm.
talk about those early days. So, making that shift from being in, I guess, a little bit of the startup world, and then kind
Yeah,
of going out into your own company. And what was, what were the early days like? I know you said 4 years. So, like
sure.
back, 4 years ago when you got started, what were some of the projects that you were looking at doing, or the deals you were looking at doing early on, so that way you kind of got out on the right foot? Went into some projects. I'm guessing that were maybe a little more conservative than others in general. But what did that process look like for you?
Yeah, well, I'd like to say that everything we do is conservative, from the way we underwrite to the way we approach every asset. So you're totally correct. But we actually started this company as a hedge fund, and we were trading in distressed debt, and also I was heading up the pre-development lending for real estate. So we also would have bought assets if it made sense, but at the time it didn't. So anyway, we started out by lending on projects in the pre-development stage. We're able to learn through that. Then we're able to leverage that into basically we wound up the fund when interest rates started to fly up. Right, when you're running a leverage strategy on fixed income instruments, it's not a good idea. So we wound that part of the fund down, and then focused all of our attention from about probably June of 2021 on real estate development. So we were pre-dev lenders, and all the debt we purchased was first mortgage lien backed securities. So it's always been real estate backed project finance. It's just where we want to enter in the capital stack and where we want to enter in the deal life cycle that changed, not really the asset class we were investing in.
Gotcha. And do you primarily have, when you're doing projects and things like that, do you primarily have, investment groups that you generally work with, from a capital standpoint, or do you not necessarily go seek outside capital, and you kind of work from within based on kind of initial investments into the company?
Well, I'm 31, so we definitely take outside capital. I don't come from a rich background, and I'm grateful for that actually. So, really, what we do is we have like friends and family that will kind of help us in the beginning of every project, and then once we take it to the next stage, it's your traditional family office, JV, and then LP equity after that. So that's how we've really put the stack together. A lot of people, I guess, probably don't like talking about the way they do their business, but it's every time I actually have an open conversation with somebody out there, they're pretty much doing the same thing. So
Yeah.
we're the first big chunk of capital. Dean is the first big chunk of capital. After that, it's friends and family. After that, it's family office, a JV partner, something of that sort. And then we're going to like institutional middle market LP equity, which is traditional capital markets work, and then obviously debt's everywhere. So
Yeah, yeah, and the main reason I was asking is also
mhm.
just we have a wide variety of people that listen into the show too. So like when I know people are doing things with, outside capital, which like you said, in most cases that is the case.
Yeah,
And just being able to put that out there for people who listen in, because I get feedback from people once in a while too, who want to connect with some of the guests and things that are on the show. And so If there's
Sure.
any opportunities for people listening in who do like to invest in different parts of the country, that was just one of the things I wanted to
We
bring
are
up.
open for business, my friend.
Perfectly. So you guys listening, you heard that. What I guess what is it? How has it been helpful to you having? You mentioned that you got into business and started this company. Was it with someone who was on? Did you say he was on the board of directors of the startup that you were on? Is that right?
Yeah, so I mean, Dean's been an entrepreneur since 1997, and honestly, way before that too, he had a great company called The Right Hand Man when he was like a kid, and did a bunch of great side gigs throughout college and through high school. So Dean's been an entrepreneur his whole life. He graduated law school in '93. By '07, or sorry, by 1997, he started his own firm in the investment banking broker dealer world, focused on project finance of everything, every type of asset that you can imagine, from detention facilities to senior living to memory care to student housing to Section 8 to LIHTC, everything. It's all unit economics and risk. So he's very knowledgeable when it comes to institutional credit and understanding whether or not a project will underwrite. So by '05, he sold Bergen Capital to BB&T, which is now Truist. They bought SunTrust. And from '05 to 2015, he stayed on for a decade to run their capital markets desk on the bond trading side nationally. So Dean is just an extremely deep understanding of project finance that I'm blessed to have at my side daily. And then, of course, I've got Andrew Sinclair on our team, who's, for all intents and purposes, a human calculator. It seems like he can turn any problem into a quick model for us to understand on a very deep and detailed level. And then, after spending 6+ years at a Turner Construction international GC firm, he's extremely knowledgeable in the project management and budget control process. He's worked on projects as big as Blue Origin's launch complex down on the Space Coast to fit outs of public libraries and things of that nature. So it's a budget with construction codes and an associated schedule that should fall in line with our underwriting as well to him. So he's really, both of them together are just such an amazing tool and foundation for me to be able to really focus on what I'm best at.
Nice, and that's kinda where I was gonna go with that, and you answered basically everything, was just around, what it's like or how valuable it is to have people who have kind of been there, done that in the business world as entrepreneurs when so you can focus on some other things or you can lean on them for, some of that mentorship and advice as you're kinda getting your feet wet as an entrepreneur. Because I mean, from what we were talking in the beginning, it doesn't sound like you were an entrepreneur until this current venture that you're on, is that correct?
Yeah, technically no. I would say, when you're employee number one, you're forced
Yeah,
to solve a lot of
true.
problems too. But no, you're totally right. It's never still when you're employee number one, you can say, well, it wasn't my ultimate decision. I mean, I can say that I voted for something.
Yeah.
It wasn't my ultimate decision. Here, yeah, everything falls on Dean and myself, and I'm very blessed to have somebody like Dean by my side for tons of reasons. He really is my best friend, my mentor, and my business partner. And not a lot of people get to have all that in one, or even all three of those in their entire life. So I know how grateful I should be, and I do my best to live up to that.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, and, yeah, I can echo that. I mean, yeah, having the right business partner and having that type of business partner or advisor, whatever it is for other people that may not have the business partner, but having somebody, in their corner that they can lean on for things like that, is yeah, can be huge in the business world.
Yeah.
Um, Shifting a little bit here over to some of the projects and deals that you've been a part of. I know certain projects and stuff just by nature of them that there's there's pieces of them that can't be shared and everything like that. But for any of the projects or things that you have been a part of that you're able to share about them, um, can you think of any that kind of stand out in your mind as ones that were maybe instrumental in growth or were projects that were just the most challenging or ones that you just enjoyed the most to be a part of? Are there any that stick out in your mind that you could talk about a little bit?
Yeah, well, my favorite projects, are always the next one. But uh,
Yeah.
as far as looking back, I mean, truly the beauty of what I do and what we do here at Southern Waters Capital is truly running an extremely dynamic shop, solving problems on a daily basis. And each deal has taught me an immense amount about real estate development, and just people too. I mean, just the amount of people and situations that I've had to deal with in the past 4 years. Um, it's been tough. It's been fun. It's just like anything else. I played sports growing up. So like a really close game is the best one to win. A blowout isn't really that fun. So I can tell you right now, every single real estate deal comes down to a fourth quarter 2 minute drill, to use a football analogy. So I mean, look, I want to give you an answer that says one of them is my favorite, but it's like you making me pick my favorite child. Each one of these
Yeah.
I live with for
Yep.
hopefully forever, but at least for 2 to 5, 7 years at the very least. So no, they're all extremely different, and they're all extremely challenging. But it's because that's where all the money is made, right? People shouldn't make a lot of money in an efficient market for solving easy problems. People should make a lot
Right.
of money for solving tough problems.
Yeah. And I guess I didn't ask this, but when you were, I think you said your first year of college up in the Northeast, what sport did you play in college?
Yeah, I was a lacrosse player, so no,
Lacrosse. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. No, I was just curious because,
A dead end
it's
sport is what I call it. There's the beauty of lacrosse and other sports like it, um, without having a big professional career afterwards, is everybody's in it for the love of the game and the love of their friends and their teammates. And I think that's just really translated into my life extremely, extremely well. And it's a very cerebral and physical game at the same time. So, you gotta be able to fight for a ground ball, and you also gotta be able to move the ball very cleanly and anticipate where people are going to be going. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot like basketball, hockey, and soccer put together.
Yeah. Well, I love the sports analogy to business and everything like that. And you hear it, I mean, you see it quite a bit. You see a lot of people in the space who have their former college athletes. And when you talk to them about it, there's just a lot of parallels to the teamwork and
Yeah,
camaraderie and sport in general. And
yeah.
it sounds like that's the case for you.
I don't know if you play team sports, but sometimes you're at each other's throats,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like on your own team, but the second somebody comes at one of your teammates, everybody's at their throat. So it's just a really, really, it gives me the chills kind of talking about it and thinking about it back then. But there's nothing like having a group of people you truly love and fighting all for the same goal, being on the same page, and disagreeing the whole way, but at the same time doing it in a way where you know that the only reason you're disagreeing is because you truly believe that you have the best answer, the best option. Um, and that's what makes a great team, right? You need a leader for sure, but you need everybody to lead in their own right and what they're best at, and where their skill set is most accretive to the mission. So that's definitely team sports 101. That's why I didn't really stick when I wrestled for like 1 year in high school. It wasn't really for me. When I used to run cross country, it wasn't really for me. Just felt like you're kind of alone out there, which some people love. That's what they live for. But when you find out and you go into the real world, no man is an island, and that could not be more
Right.
true.
Yep. Yep. Well said. For the I guess the last section here that we'll go into is the lightning round section where I'll go through. I've got 5 questions here that we'll walk through. Each one just a quick answer from you. I don't have a timer or anything fancy like that, so we'll say roughly about a minute response on each of these. But all of them kind of revolve around your business and things of that nature. So first one. So how does a real estate, land development or investment firm like yours maintain and enhance its brand reputation?
Staying in front of people, that's the same for every business, right? Staying in front of people, working with integrity. We I guide all my hiring and all my decision making when it comes to the people I work with by two principles. It's loyalty and work ethic. I mean, you wouldn't be in the room if I didn't think you were astute enough, if you didn't check all the boxes on your resume or whatever it is. That so really for us, it's loyalty and work ethic, and that translates into everything that we do. And you may not agree with me, you may not even like me, but when I'm on your team, you're gonna love me. So that's really how we build our brand. And another thing is we have opinions. We're not afraid to have an opinion. We're not afraid to stand up for what we believe in, whether it has to do with something political, which we try and stay absolutely as far away from. But sometimes when things hit close to home, you have to say something. Um, and it could be as simple as, what we believe about an asset class and where it's headed. So I think that's, a few things: being able to stand on your own ideas and your own morals, being able to work with integrity, having an extremely strong work ethic, and being loyal to the people that have been loyal to you. That translates to building an amazing brand. And maybe it takes a little bit longer because we're not all over every social media platform. We're really just like LinkedIn guys. But point is we just care that everybody who has worked with us and who has dealt with us knows that we're going to shoot it straight and nobody's going to outwork us.
Nice. Awesome. Number two, how have client expectations changed over the past few years? So since you started 4 years ago, have you seen a change in expectations as kind of the economy has gone a little bit up and down?
Yeah, sure. People want to hire pref now. Um, so I mean, that's really it. Look, everybody demands excellence that I work with, and that's the only people I want to work with. So my bar has done nothing but go higher, but on my own accord. No one's really pushing me. No offense to the questioner, to you, but like I have my own level of excellence that I want to achieve every single day, and I work extremely hard to make sure that I'm not letting myself down, or anybody behind me who either relies on me or help me get to where I am. So the real objective answer is they want to hire pref. I mean that, and they want more equity in the deal. Those are the two big things. But other than that, no. I mean, we're a shop built on achieving everything we can and pushing ourselves absolutely as hard as we can.
All right. Third one here. How do you keep your deal pipeline full and consistent? And I'm not looking for like trade secrets or anything here. Just
I
in
would
general, like how do you just always keep things in the pipeline and stuff?
I never get off the phone. I mean,
Yeah.
I literally had to stop a call to come do this, and I will go right back on that call right after this. And I'm happy to be here for the record, and I'm grateful for it. But the point is like I always tell everybody, look, as long as you're not afraid of hearing the word no, I'm not afraid of seeing anything that you're working on. Don't take it personal. And really just being open and honest and giving quick feedback and talking to everybody you can, because you never know where the next deal is going to come from. You never know where the next dollar is going to come from. So the best way to keep your pipeline full is to be laser focused. Always have your eyes and ears open for what you should be looking for and what you should be hearing or listening for in order to identify a deal that fits your strategy. And when you hear it and you see an opportunity, do not hesitate, because there's another guy out there like me. If we're in the same lane, I'm not going to hesitate. So you know, don't ever be afraid and just stay in front of people.
Nice. All right. Fourth one here. How do you gather and use client feedback? And this probably goes for team feedback too. How do you make sure that, from a client perspective as well as within your team, that you're getting feedback and then using that to like improve your services?
Yeah. Well, first off, we have weekly meetings individually with every team member, and then we have a team meeting every Monday. And second to that, I'm a big fan of Ray Dalio, and he has a good system about keeping an issue log. We keep an issue log on everything, so when there's a problem that happens or occurs that we know we can learn from, um, we assign a responsible party for the mistake. We explain what happened and why it happened, and then we write a rule or a principle, if you will, to then make sure we never do that again. So I've got 4 years worth of mistakes in a spreadsheet inside my computer that one day will probably become a memoir of a sad developer. But I can tell you right now, it's just actually acknowledging the mistake, understanding who's responsible, remaining accountable for that issue, knowing that everybody makes mistakes, and then knowing that we're all going to look out for each other to not make that mistake again. And that's really how you make sure you're doing good by all your people. And it's hard for it's not like we're selling a widget that's in a bunch of people's hands that get like reviews and stuff like that. It's really a small cohort, and I usually find out when I make a mistake on an angry phone call
Yeah.
or a bad email or something like that. And I don't take them personally, because look, I'm working as hard as I can. I'm doing as best as I can. I'm never slacking. I'm never not thinking about what I'm doing. So yeah, I will make mistakes along the way. I'll continue to, but as long as we track them, and it's a repeated mistake you should detest. You should detest repeated mistakes, and people who make repeated mistakes, are not people who will stay on my team, period. It's just not something I will put up with, and I wouldn't put it up with it for myself. So why should I do
Yeah.
it for anybody on my team?
Yeah, no, I like that, and I'm actually for the 5th one here, I'm gonna, like, keep going on this a little bit
Sure.
because, yeah, I really like that. How do you I think a lot of people are very paralyzed by the fear of making mistakes,
Yeah,
and, like, and under you know what I mean? Like, they'll
yeah.
sit there and they'll analyze something forever and not actually take the action. So how do you avoid that and make sure that you're not overanalyzing things?
I'm really lucky because I came from a background where I really didn't have much. So life, everything is upside to me. People ask me all the time, like, how do you handle so much risk taking? How do you take so much money from other people? How do you do this? How do you do that? And I always tell them that I'm like that is what's in between me and what I want to become. So that's what must be done. And you know, I really don't get scared of it. I get excited about it. Like that is that big problem that I'm supposed to solve to be compensated and to make all my investors extremely happy, right? Like that the goal is
Yep,
to bring them value through my risk taking. And it's risk is so easy to misunderstand as well. So like people think me going out buying a big piece of dirt far before it's entitled is dangerous, but to me, I know I came in underpriced in a great market and I'm going to be able to force appreciation on day one through my natural talents. So, I mean, I'd be really scared. Most people would go out and buy a big 200 unit operating asset and raise rents by 200 bucks and see that as some not risky endeavor. To me, that's extremely risky. That stuff scares me. What doesn't scare me is what I know I'm really good at, and like that's why I don't get scared. I'm very one thing law school gave me was because I was not the smartest guy in the room was first and foremost knowing I'm not the smartest guy in the room, so I need to get those people in the room, and then second not being afraid to ask questions that you may think other people will think you're not educated or something. People are so afraid of being wrong, even in asking the question, that they're bound to be wrong down the line. It's like either look dumb now or look really stupid later. So I have no problem, asking questions. And, you know, you go to enough school and sit around enough smart people, you know how to ask a dumb question in a way that doesn't make you sound so dumb. So,
yeah.
it simple as, forgive me for my ignorance, but I've never experienced this situation. If you wouldn't mind walking me through the things I should be looking for. And then as we go down that line, I ask question upon question upon question. I mean, the Socratic method is really what law school is best for. It's supposed to teach people how to think. I think there's some Ivy League schools out there who have lost touch with that, but
Yeah.
it's not supposed to teach you what to think. It's supposed to teach you how to think and expose you to good ideas and good questions because the best things come out of great questions. I actually am more impressed when a young guy or gal is interviewing or talking to me and they ask a question that is so insightful. Nobody's ever impressed really by your answer, or
Right.
else why would they be interviewing you? They're really, unless it's like, a documentary or something. Yeah, it's the person being interviewed is supposed to be the best. But in most scenarios in life, the person being interviewed is not necessarily at the top of the totem pole. So really, it's the questions that impress me much more than the answers, and it's always really refreshing. And one of the best compliments anybody ever gives me is, "Wow, that's a really good question. I'm glad you asked," or I could tell you've thought about this. You know what I mean? It's like that's the kind of stuff that makes me feel great. And, when you spend a bunch of time on something knowing you don't know everything, like really staring at a problem and going, man, I do not know this. Let me go talk to absolutely everybody I can, exhaust all my resources. That fear and that risk becomes more quantifiable. Once you can quantify the risk, you should be able to take it. If or not. If you decide not to, that's fine too. But the point is it's most people aren't quantifying the risk, therefore they're paralyzed. There's so much going on that, each new leg or branch of a decision tree to them is this whole nother load of risk where they're not really doing a good job of understanding the probability and the downside and the upside, the probability of both those that are associated with it, and then understanding how you can influence those natural probabilities and maybe skew them to your favor. It's Jim Collins talks about it all the time. Like it's okay to take a bunch of risk. It's just not okay to do it, you know, above or below the death line, however you want to think about it when you're climbing. He talks about it when you're climbing a mountain, right? And you don't have your oxygen.
Yep.
You only have a certain amount of oxygen. You can't be making the same risky moves you'd make back at base camp or something like that, where you can actually maneuver and maybe able to get back down to your resources. So really, it's about knowing when and where to strike on the most asymmetric risk that you can find, and understanding that, look, we can always get out of here with a little bit of profit. That's the key, right? Or when I say a little bit, it's usually like 1.5 to 2 extra money, no matter what, just because the land is what it is. So the short answer is, it's quantifying that risk, understanding it, and asking so many questions that by the end of it, you're just like, if I missed a question, it's not because I didn't try, right? It's because I simply was ignorant to that. And there's things, and you can't know everything. That's why we have subject matter experts and things that we work with.
Yeah, no, I like that, and I think one of the things you said in there too that I wrote down was just the confidence in your own work that you've put in to get to the point where you're at right now, right? So leaning on your experience and leaning on other people, like you said, when you don't know the answer, which is going to be the case a lot of the times, yeah, leaning on those
Every
subject matter experts to help guide in that situation, which will increase your, or I guess reduce the risk of making an incorrect decision.
Yeah, every market I go into, I mean, I have to relearn everything. Zoning is not the same everywhere. Taxes aren't the same everywhere. Renting demographics aren't the same everywhere. You know, demand dynamics are not the same everywhere. So each time you go to a new deal into a new market, you have to treat it like you don't know. And that's all I do. Like, I actually fear the day I begin to think I know. I mean, that is when I will really screw up. Right now, I feel like I'm in this healthy position where I've really accepted and really understand that not knowing everything is totally okay, like totally okay. And absolutely a part of becoming a much better developer in my instance, or whatever else you're working on. But the point is if you're in a room where you've heard this before, right? Like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're
Right.
in the wrong
Yes.
room. Like, all these things that my dad was born in 1946. He's no longer with me, but he didn't even finish middle school. I didn't grow up with a mom around, and like, it's one of those things where, like, he taught. I have a note on my phone of all these Brooklyn proverbs that are so true to this day. And it's just so interesting. You can go to school for, like, I have a dual graduate degree. Honestly, I learned way more from my dad, from playing sports, from being around Dean, from being around other individuals and the experiences that they've had, than anywhere else. And those all get distilled down into what I call proverbs. Other people might call sayings, whatever, um, that are passed down through families and through cultures and through geographies. And they're extremely useful. There's a reason those things stick around for a long time. Just one more example. I was talking to a guy last night, and he was like telling me all about how, trying to help people out to do this, to do that, whatever. But long story short, he's like, I just couldn't get him to make a move, like, to the analysis paralysis mention you made in the old saying, like, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. It's just, it is what it is. People are who they are, and not everybody's meant to do to be an entrepreneur. And people can be entrepreneurs in their own way. But the point being is that, like, these old proverbs that I were taught guide me in life so well, and I'm extremely grateful for all that my dad taught me.
No, it's awesome. Yeah, those can be in your memoir as well.
If I did write a book, um, it would probably, each chapter, I'd probably want to put one of the proverbs as the chapter title, and then, like,
Yeah, that'd be
write some
perfect.
cool stories that I was able to think about when I said those things.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, hey, we're at looks like 34 minutes right now, so we should probably come to a close. And I guess the last thing here then is for people listening in, what's the best way for them to contact you? It sounds like maybe LinkedIn's a good spot, but do you have another place you want to send people to learn more about you and your company?
Yeah, LinkedIn definitely is great. Ray Mazzie. And then my email, ray@southernwaterscapital.com. It's all over the internet. People always think I'm, like, giving out a bunch of personal information. It's everywhere. So you can reach out directly, or you can go through our website, southernwaterscapital.com. We've got, a little inquiry box that you can identify who you are and what you want to talk about. It goes right into my Slack channel, so I'll see it. And then I'd really love to plug my two charities if I could shamelessly do that.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So we operate the Friendship Circle of Greater Fort Lauderdale. It's like a national organization, not for profit, that helps people with special needs reach their highest and best potential in the workplace. So we run a cafe called actually it's the Friendship Grill now on Las Olas Boulevard here. So if you're ever in town, come eat with us. If you ever want to just donate, go to Friendship Circle of Greater Fort Lauderdale. Type it in Google. I'm not exactly sure how we abbreviated that website, but and then the last thing we just started, and I just got news from the wonderful IRS that we've got our not-for-profit status for Patriot Affordable Housing, which will be a charity that builds homes for veterans and also active duty first responders and military service members. So I'm extremely grateful for that. It was actually a very kind investor and friend of mine that helped spur that idea, gave me the gas to get there. And I haven't had permission to say his name, so I won't. But the point is, he's an extremely gracious individual, and we're excited to be able to do something and give back for the people who put their lives on the line for us.
Yeah, well, that's amazing for both of those organizations too. So I will, so both for your contact information and the information for those charities, I'll get the links and make sure those are on the show notes page for this episode. So those of you listening in, if you want to learn more about that, just click in the description below. There should be a link to the show notes page, and you can see that information there. But Ray, I really appreciate you hopping on and spending some time with me and talking through the industry and your business and everything. And yeah, with that said, guys, we'll talk to you next time. Thanks.
Thank you.